day is often relaxing enough for me to fall asleep. Story 47. I take a couple of deep breaths, wrap my arms around my pillow, and tell myself, everything will be fine. This is my life now. Then I say something that tickles my breath, and eventually I fall asleep. Story 48. Cannabis. I hardly smoke, maybe a few times a year, and only in instances where I am really struggling physically or cannot sleep. Nothing compares to cannabis for aiding sleep. I come from a very rigid, proper family, but one of my uncles has suffered severely from insomnia for years. He has finally opened his mind to trying cannabis, and it worked. Nothing else did. He tried everything. There is a reason it is becoming legalized all over the world. You do not need to get high if you do not want to. You can take the oil instead. My 70-year-old relative, who also grew up very rigid and proper, now has it growing in her greenhouse to help with arthritis pain for herself and her husband. It is such a useful medicinal plant. Story 49. For my wife, I had her read or play on her phone. It helped her unwind and not lie there listening to all the thoughts in her head. I have no problem falling asleep. Story 50. White noise helps me sleep. I play an 8-hour loop of engine noise from the Enterprise when I need a good night's rest. And it works every time. When the weather calls for it, a fan works too. Story 51. Memorize The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe and recite it to myself in bed. The rhythm of the rhyme is soothing and puts me to sleep around the 5th or 6th verse each time. Story 52. Calm app, particularly one of the stories read by Matthew McConaughey. I don't think I stayed awake for the whole thing. Story 53. Sleep mask with built-in speakers. This way, if I don't fall asleep right away, I can enjoy some reading. Story 54. Insert an earbud in one ear and play your favorite comfort movie or TV show at a low volume. It helps prevent your mind from wandering and worrying. Story 55. This playlist has a 45-minute sleep timer. Story 56. ASMR spa roleplay videos on my phone, with the screen off, provide enough distraction to stop my mind from having endless random thoughts about what I'm doing tomorrow or how my day went. But they are not interesting enough to keep me awake. Story 57. As a dad of 3 young kids, falling asleep is no problem for me. Give me 5 minutes of quiet and a seat, and I can be out. However, for the past 10 years, the quality of my sleep has been terrible. I would snore a lot and never wake up feeling rested, even on the rare occasions when I got 8 hours. I did a sleep study and found that I had sleep apnea. I was prescribed a continuous positive airway pressure machine. Initially, it was a bit uncomfortable to use, but your body has to sleep, so you get used to it, and then, wow. Once it kicked in, it was like a miracle. Even if I only use it for 4 or 5 hours, the machine really makes those hours restful by reducing the events per hour that would typically wake me up many times a night, causing me not to feel rested. It helps to be Canadian because our public health care covers part of the machine price, along with 100% of the doctor visits and sleep studies, and my work insurance plan handled the rest. Story 58. Contrary to popular advice, I tend to fall asleep faster and more naturally when I scroll through my phone, rather than trying to focus on my breathing, clear my mind, or put my phone away an hour before bed. Story 59. Medical cannabis has been a significant change for me. I used to rely on sleeping pills and tried many techniques over the years. When I was prescribed medical cannabis, I was hesitant to try it since I had never used it before. However, after using it for 2 years, I can confidently say it has changed my life. Story 60. Not sleeping the day after working the overnight shift and then taking a strong edible. Even then, it only puts me out for 4 hours, but I fall asleep deeply. Story 61. I name animals going from A to Z and naming all the animals I can think of. Armadillo, alpaca, budgie, beluga whale, cassowary, chimp, etc. However, I have never made it past M. Story 62. I close my eyes and focus on relaxing every part of my body. I start at my feet and work my way up. I usually do not make it all the way up before I fall asleep. Story 63. Reinforcing the sleep association with my bed is important. I have a pillow and a blanket on the floor next to my bed. If I don't fall asleep within 15 to 20 minutes, I lie on the uncomfortable floor until I start yawning, which is the sign to get back into bed. After a few nights of this, my brain usually gives in, and I no longer need to lie on the floor. I still leave the blanket and pillow there most nights as a reminder to my subconscious. Story 64. I think about going to the beach with my dog, who passed away in November along with my ex, and reliving those memories. It usually helps me fall asleep. Story 65. Okay, I never said this out loud, But here we go. I don't know why, but I can tell if I'm going to fall asleep quickly or not. When I close my eyes, if it is completely dark, then I'll fall asleep immediately. If it's anything less than that, I know it will be one of those odd times when I can't sleep. If it is one of those can't sleep times, I will focus motionless on an area around my forehead. If I do it right, a small black orb of darkness appears there. And if I lie there absolutely motionless and completely mentally blank, the black orb will grow. If I can allow the growth to take over my entire field of vision, I have no idea what happens because I will always have fallen asleep. But if I move in the slightest, a twitch, clear my throat, or a random thought enters my otherwise still mind, off, back to the less than dark. Yup, that's what it's like in my head. Story 66. Propofol helped me fall asleep quickly and provided a deep sleep. The downside was that in preparation for the propofol, I had to endure 2 rounds of extreme discomfort after drinking a terrible liquid, which ended with an unpleasant procedure. Story 67. I count to 5 over and over in my head, but slower each time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I draw out the numbers towards the end, like 1. I read somewhere that this works most days. Story 68. Toss on a 2 or 3 hour non-sleep deep rest session with an AirPod in my right ear using noise cancellation, and set a timer on my phone to shut off before it ends. Allibuthroid puts me to sleep in about 5 to 10 minutes every time. Story 69. One night, I did not have the medication that I needed to sleep and had to get creative. I used partial sensory deprivation. I wrapped myself in my blanket tightly enough that I couldn't move, which made skin sensation stop quickly, covered my eyes, and plugged my ears. It's challenging to keep track of time in that state, but at some point, I fell asleep. Story 70. Audiobooks and podcasts are essentially spoken word content that allows you to concentrate. They help shift your brain's focus away from the past and future, reducing the chaotic thoughts that can keep your mind racing at all hours. For me, this is by far the most effective method. You can also combine reading a physical book until you tire and then switch to an audiobook while turning off the lights. It's a winning combination. Story 71. I have been using a sleep mask for years. It seems to calm everything down and is my signal